Hello, I'm Pamela. When the pandemic first started, I was just finishing my sophomore year in high school. And although I've always been homeschooled, lockdown and social distancing really did make some big changes for me. I was no longer able to meet with homeschool groups or see my relatives as often as I used to, so I often felt lonely and disconnected. In addition, I started enrolling at a college that year, and not being able to meet in person with advisors made scheduling my courses quite difficult. It was also stressful learning new technology for remote learning. In order to not be overcome by these obstacles, I tried to see them as learning opportunities instead of obstacles that could never be overcome. This really grew my self-confidence, and I now feel much more prepared for future challenges. It was also very difficult starting a new job during the pandemic. Face masks and other protective equipment made it very difficult at times to communicate with coworkers and customers. It was very easy to forget there was a person behind that mask. I often felt as if I wasn't being treated like one. In order to get through this, I tried to take the focus off myself and instead concentrate on how I could make other people feel better and more connected. I tried to smile a little more and laugh a little louder, and just try to focus on helping other people. Although this whole pandemic experience has been very challenging, I know I learned a lot and grew a lot, and it has really made me appreciate every new opportunity as a chance to grow.
Hi, I'm Sophia Franz, and I'm going to be talking about my personal experience with my mental health during COVID as a student and as a student athlete. First, as a student, the biggest change with online learning for me was not being able to connect with other people in my class and not being able to ask questions with other students as easy as it is in person. This was really hard for me because that's a big way of how I learn, is by connecting with other people in my class. So not being able to do this, I could definitely tell that I wasn't learning as well as I was used to prior to COVID. And so this was really hard for me because I felt like I was struggling and I felt like I was getting behind in the material. And since we also weren't in person, I didn't have anybody to talk to about this. That was really hard for me. Also, as a student athlete, my sport of swimming was canceled, and swimming is one of the few sports that you can't really do if you don't have access to a pool, especially in Michigan, because in the middle of the winter you can't swim outside, you can't swim in a lake. And so when all the pools were closed, there was absolutely no way that I could train. And a lot of my socialization and energy I put into swim, and it's a big outlet for my anxiety. And if I have a hard day, if I'm stressed at school, I can go to swim and relieve that stress. But with swim canceled, I didn't have that outlet. And so then I had to find other things, try and come up with new hobbies. I even tried playing the piano, just something to get my mind off school and take a break and kind of, use as an outlet instead of swim. But that was really hard, and I'm so grateful that swim is back now, because I really do think that, activity and some sort of exercise can be such a great outlet for stress and anxiety, and I really think it can improve your mental health. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Madeline Loisel. I am a senior at Chippewa Valley High Schools, and I'm a member of the Easterseals Junior Board. To begin, a couple of years ago when we got quarantined, school was pretty difficult for me. I didn't really know how to navigate school online or fully understand how to just learn in that aspect. And so getting back to normal has been pretty difficult for me, especially because now I don't have as much downtime, and discussing things in class is a little bit awkward still. And so getting into that has been pretty difficult in that aspect. Then also, I am a competitive dancer, so when we got quarantined 2 years ago, that week was supposed to be my very first competition of the season, and it got canceled, as did the rest of them for that season. So it's been pretty difficult getting back into dance normally, especially because last year, while we did get to compete, we competed with masks on, so we didn't get to perform the way we usually do, and performance is a big part of dance, so it was very difficult for me. Along with the events recently at Oxford and other schools around the country, this year has been very difficult and taken a toll on my mental health, especially as a student who is now going to be transitioning from high school to college, where these events still happen in college. So it's very nerve-wracking, especially since there's been so little change about it. The only change we've had is we have to go from regular backpacks to mesh, and we can't have jackets anymore. It feels like they're just pushing this issue aside, and it's really taking a toll on my mental health and whether I feel safe at school or not anymore. And so I'm trying my best to voice my opinion to adults and other people around me, but it still feels like I haven't been heard. And so in every aspect, it's readjusting to back to normal, to my life, and trying to seek better change for the world around me, which has been difficult, especially since I haven't been able to do much change in the past 2 years. So it's been a very long, difficult process as someone who was 15, who went into quarantine and is now going to become an adult this year. So I'm trying my best to learn how to become a better human and how to readjust to what I think is normal in life. Thank you.
This video is supposed to be about mental health, but I don't even know what mental health is. What does good mental health mean? The past 2 years, I've lost track of who I am, what normal is, and what everything's supposed to look like. Today was the first day that we didn't have to wear masks at school since I was in 9th grade, and I'm in 11th grade now. Today was the first day that everybody was sat in the cafeteria for lunch instead of having distance lunches. It was weird. I don't remember school being like that. I felt naked without my mask. The school lunchroom just felt overwhelming with all those students in there. It's been weird, but finally getting back to what people say is normal when I don't know what that even means. I've seen so many of my friends and myself just decline from the past 2 years of not knowing what normal is, constantly being on social media or their phones to avoid social connection because we don't even know how to interact with people because we've just been forced to stay at home for obvious reasons. But either way, it's hard to connect with our teachers and people that we aren't super close with just because we forgot how to from not being able to do so for a while. And so luckily I've been able to kind of reach out and remember like what it's like to have a normal conversation. But for other people, it's been hard, and I know a lot of my friends have had to see therapists and get help to kind of figure out who they are after this pandemic, which offered a lot of time for reflecting and figuring out who they are and what normal is. And I think that's been a common thing. So finally getting back to normal has been what we've been doing today, and it's been good. I've enjoyed kind of remembering what life was like before the pandemic and before just mental health declined. So just trying to remember the good things before COVID and bringing those back into our lives right now.
I'm Sam.
I'm Natalie.
I'm Kendall. And we are from Armada, and we're going to be talking about our experiences at school with COVID.
What's changed a lot over the time we've been in school is how people are interacting with each other and how like
We're
masks-
learning in general.
Yeah, just everything's changed since like COVID really happened, especially like between freshman year and we're juniors this year, so like just a lot has changed.
Yeah, our school experience probably was different from a lot of other schools. We were in person at the beginning of last year, so was that 2021 to 2022? No, 2020 to 2020. Yeah, that one. But yeah, we were in person then, and we were open pretty much the whole year besides when Michigan shut down in general.
Yeah, until we were like forced to shut down.
So we started in school with masks, and there was an online option. So Kendall and I went to school.
Yeah, and then I was virtual for 2 trimesters of last year.
Yeah, so just learning in school was already way different than it had previously been our freshman year. I don't feel like we were learning to the fullest capability that we could have been.
No, not at all.
And like being online, it was even worse because teachers were so busy with the kids in class, and then when they had time to finally like focus on you, they were so tired and they didn't know what to do, so it was difficult for a student and teacher, and it was not very fun.
Yeah, our teachers did the same class in person and online. There wasn't like a teacher for online and a teacher for in school. They were basically running like 2 of every single class.
Yeah, and even if like you were in person, you were getting the same video that people were getting online, so it's like you were still felt disconnected from the teachers in person.
And then being virtual like didn't really come with any benefits other than being like at home but even being at home, like you didn't have that socialization with people, and that's a big part of learning, at least in my opinion, is learning from your peers. And even teachers didn't really have time.
Yeah, we were definitely distanced even in the classrooms, obviously because of like precaution for COVID, but like even as the year continued, we weren't socializing with each other as much. We ate lunch in our classrooms with the class that we had, so we had to sit at our desks. We couldn't really congregate, and you just didn't see people as much.
Yeah.
And going off that, like another thing that changed was like the staggered release. So people get out at different times in the hallways, so there weren't as many people in the hallways, but that was a big part of school, was like seeing your friends in the hallway and meeting up with people and talking for the 3 minutes between classes, and that was kind of gone. So
yeah, it was like 5 minutes, and I think it got cut to 3, so the only time you had was to go to the bathroom.
And you only had to go in one direction around the school, so even if someone else was coming from a classroom like at the other end of the hallway, you wouldn't be able to see them.
Yeah, because our school kind of goes in like a circle, and they had arrows on the floor which way you could be walking.
And it's even changed now. Like we still, the arrows aren't there anymore, but we all still do the same like walk in one direction and like stay with the same people basically, and it's not changed.
Yeah. One thing that changed last year was how sports ran. I know during the summer we'd always have like camps and conditioning to get you ready for the sport. I played basketball, and we just conditioned outside. Kendall did too.
Yeah, I played basketball.
And then when she started volleyball, like practices were different.
Yeah, we weren't allowed, we didn't have like the okay to be inside yet, so we actually practiced outside on the volleyball courts for probably
Tennis courts.
Tennis courts. It was for probably like a month, 2 months, and it was just so hot, and like it was just not good.
Did you practice in masks outside or no?
No, we didn't have to wear masks outside.
Yeah, when we went inside for basketball, we were conditioning and playing in masks, like games, and like there'd be penalties. Like if you were in a game and you were constantly taking your mask below your nose, like the ref would call you out on it. Like it was a serious thing. It had to be out.
Same for volleyball.
And then like I play softball, and in the first like beginning of the season, we had to wear masks on the field, and it wasn't nice, especially like when you're having to run around. And I couldn't even imagine like for basketball and volleyball, the amount of conditioning and running you do. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it was definitely different.
Having to wear a mask when you go up to bat, like
that was so weird.
It was weird.
Another thing was like our homecoming was canceled last year, which is like a big thing. Everyone looks forward to it. You know, you buy a dress, you get excited for a date, and then it was canceled. We didn't have it.
Yeah.
And our prom, I mean, we didn't go to prom last year because we were sophomores, but It got moved from the regular place to Blake's, like the apple orchard
outside.
place,
Outside.
outside in a tent.
Yeah, I don't even think there was like a theme or anything. It was just
It was
kinda,
so
like,
last
there.
minute, especially
Yeah.
for the seniors. Like if you're
Yeah.
looking forward to your senior prom, it was
Right.
just ruined.
Mhm.
Like basically, just in general, school has been different. You're not like socializing. You're not as connected to your teachers. Like you just aren't really. It doesn't feel like you're as like prioritized as much as you used to be.
Yeah.
It's like they're focusing on something else.
Mhm.
The kids are there. Like you're not learning to like the best. Like it's spit it, like get it, spit it, forget it. Because we learn in a block scheduling right now. So we have 6 classes and they're split up. Like 3 classes we'll have for 2 weeks and then the other 3 classes we'll have for 2 weeks. So you're basically cramming 4 weeks of information into 2 weeks and then testing on it. It's almost like it's an exam week every single time you're in there.
Yeah, and having 2-hour class periods is just so much like harder than one, because like just sitting in a classroom for 2 hours hearing a lecture is like awful.
Yeah. Especially if it's like even like an English class, if you're trying to like read
Oh yeah.
for that, or like math too, like working with
Yeah,
numbers
we
if
would
you're
have
not a
to
math
do
person.
2
Yeah.
lessons a day.
At the same time, you forgot what you did on the last
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah, and they would expect you to come in the next 2 weeks.
And be ready.
Yeah, remembering everything.
Mhm.
And
Didn't work.
Yeah.
out
And you'd
that
have homework over the blocks,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
you're
like-
trying to do
too much.
too much. It was really stressful. So that was kind of our experience with school. It just wasn't the same, and we still have the blocks. We just got
Yeah.
rid of lunch in the classrooms. It's starting to get back to normal. We can go to sporting events now, but it's still like it's missing. Like there's just like a school spirit or something that like we
Yeah,
don't
it's
have
not there
anymore. Like everyone is just like sitting there like moping, and
yeah.
no one's happy to be there. But I mean, I guess it's just mental health has been taking a toll on for everyone, especially.
So another thing that really like affected our mental health, especially this year, was the Oxford shooting, where I know our school, we didn't know it was happening until we got home that day. And then the next day we came back to school and it was just a completely like different atmosphere. Everyone was on edge, everyone was emotional, everyone was like, I don't know, it was just a completely different place.
Yeah.
And
Everyone was scared, like,
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
be there.
You didn't feel like safe walking into a classroom, like knowing that happened so close. Like we just had our, like one of our playoff games, right?
Yeah,
was
it
at
was
Oxford
football.
on their field because our field wasn't ready to play on.
Yeah.
And like a lot of us were just there watching that game, and to know that happened, it's just awful.
But then we ended up having a threat, a few weeks later?
No,
or
it
the
was
day
the
after.
day after.
The day after?
Yeah. But did it happen like, was it on a Tuesday? We were there
Yeah, it
in
was
school on
on
Wednesday, and then we had a threat
Yeah.
on
And then
Thursday.
we were there. Then we had off Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in school on Thursday during the threat, and I think we were all home by like 9:30.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We were there for like 30 minutes and then
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
home.
I know. I was at a different building that we're taught at. Like we have an academy, and then we have the regular high school, and I was at the academy, and like at this point they didn't really know what was going on with the threat, and since we were in a different building they just dismissed us. But it went over the announcements to, if you had a car, like evacuate the building and get out. And they opened all the doors, and they just had kids like going to the parking lot. And like one of my teachers said that they didn't know if there was a shooter in the high school, and if we had a sibling there we needed to just go home. And that was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I did, like your stomach dropped. Like we were like shaking trying to turn on our cars. Like it was
Yeah,
lot.
Natalie and I were
Yeah.
in history, and we saw our teacher go over and lock the door, and everyone was like, "Well, why was he doing that?"
Yeah.
And everyone just like freaked out.
Because he didn't say anything. He
Yeah.
just went and locked the door, and then their announcement came over the speakers, and he was like, "Oh yeah, there's been a threat," and it was like, "Oh no."
I just got chills.
Yeah, I know. I
Weird.
was like, oh, it was scary.
Yeah, just thinking about it, like even like the week after, still every single time the announcement went off, like I had like a rush of like almost like an anxious rush
Yeah.
to hear like what was going to be said.
And even like now, when someone when the door's closed and it's locked, and someone's like at the door,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you hear it, you, like just that, like your stomach drops, and you're like, "Oh, is this?"
And
that
this
person?
didn't even
Is
happen
this-
at our school.
I know.
This
I know.
was somewhere else, and
Yeah.
it's affecting kids who haven't even been in a
Right.
school shooting. Like,
Yeah, and my cousin who's in middle school is worried about it. Like it's affecting
Yeah.
all grades and everyone.
definitely. Yeah. But I feel like it did spark a lot of like deep conversations.
That needed to be.
Yeah.
Said there have been
Yeah.
like changes in our school because of it. Like, for example, in some of our classes we'd have a phone wall where we'd have to put our phones in like a pocket that was assigned to us, and they researched that because of their phones in Oxford was a lot how they communicated after the shooting to find their parents and meet up. So a lot of our classes got rid of that and just have our phones on us, which was, it's definitely something that's needed. We need to take those precautions in case that does happen.
Yeah. And those conversations are really what kind of, I think, got us through the hardest parts of it. Like, I know reaching out to like students and stuff, like from friends, really opened up different emotions, and it helped a lot.
Yeah, and our counselors, we had meetings with them. They were asking us how we were doing and how they could help. A lot of stuff like that.
Like NCR, there's a community we kind of tried to help too. For example, like we've had basketball games that the money proceeds go to Oxford. We have like a penny drive right now going on with our rival school, and all the money is going there. So
Yep.
And then just donations, like just in the office, you could drop it off and everything.
And I don't know, it just it felt really scary, honestly. I know it could be said differently, but it just was scary.
I mean, the past few years, I think it's just always been this stress and anxiety of like what is going to happen, and even just now.
It's been one thing after another,
It has
honestly.
been. Yeah, it really has been.
And I know there are people who have it, worse and everything, but to like these things are affecting everyone. And I feel like there needs to be better like mental health, like advocacy, and especially just like check-ins with teenagers, adults, but especially people in school right now, because it can take a toll, like learning different, not seeing people as much, like friendships have changed if you're not socializing, like a lot, like from freshman year to now, like a lot has changed. And right now it seems like this help is only temporary. When something comes up, like the shooting comes up, that's the first time some of us have met with our counselors. Like nothing has ever been set in stone greatly.
We had like one mental health week after.
But then it was the mental health week. It was prioritized, and then it's done. Like you don't get an exception. Like you go into say, hey, I'm really struggling. They're like, okay, your math homework's due tomorrow. Like it's not, and that's not saying like that's kind of an easy way to say it. But like people are struggling, and school is still like put it right ahead of like our feelings. It feels like
Which we have resources, but not everyone is like
comfortable.
Comfortable, or they don't have that courage to say, hey, I'm struggling right now, can you help me? And it's, I don't know, just if we had that, I think we have some sort of community, but we're not all comfortable enough with each other to share those emotions yet. So
some of these things have brought us closer together, where we're starting to have like conversations, but we've kind of been sheltered from this like
definitely
our whole life. It's been like, oh, we're not going to talk about these things because we don't want to like upset you, but like if we started talking about them earlier, I feel like we'd be more comfortable with it.
And we could even try to prevent things, having these conversations.
Everything has changed, but I mean, there have been some good things that have come out of it. Like now we get free lunch at school because of like, what is that, funding from the government or something like that.
I think that might be a big like stress relief for some families who can't afford lunches and food, and it's like a nice thing for someone to look forward to have a meal at school.
And then just being able to talk with people has definitely been a good thing that's come out of there. But there's been a lot of changes, probably more to come, but it's just been stressful for us. I feel like our mental health has kind of been constantly shot down since 2020.
We haven't even had a normal year of high school
No.
yet, and I'm sure we won't.
Probably not. It kind of has been exhausting for like a high school student to be working, because you're supposed to have fun.
Like high school experience.
And then you can't go to like football games. Only your parents can come to sporting events. Like last year, it's finally getting back to normal, but people who were seniors last year, like it's just not the same. Basically, it's been different.
Yes, that's one way to put it.
Hi, my name is Molly Mitchell, and I'm a junior at Anchorage High School. And after editing all these videos together and hearing what everybody had to say, I just wanted to wrap up a few points that were made. Like many others said, the adjustment back into school I think has been one of the hardest things to deal with. Going from online learning, being at my house all day, staring at a computer for like 7 hours, with some gradual transitioning, and then going to school with a mask on and seeing all your peers again, but also not being able to socialize with them. It was all just a big change. And even after that year of weird change, this school year has still felt very strange. Like Sam and Natalie and Kendall said, there's just something missing. For example, a lot of activities are being canceled at my school. Like we had a talent show that got canceled because there wasn't enough participation. We had a co-ed volleyball tournament that got canceled because not enough people signed up. There's just no urge to do anything anymore. Sometimes it feels like people are just going through the motions. And I think a lot of it has to do with mental health, and kids don't feel as present as they used to. I don't think that high school has the same effect on people as it used to, especially after the Oxford shooting. As a high school student, you hear a lot about shootings like that, but you never really think that it could happen to you or at anywhere close to you, and when it does, it hits a lot closer to home. With all that being said, I think it's important for teachers to just listen. If a kid looks like they're having a bad day, they probably are. Take a second and listen to them, hear them out. And don't be afraid to teach things outside of the curriculum. The Oxford shooting was an opportunity for teachers to teach the students about different scenarios that can play out in school and ways to protect yourself. And I feel like a lot of teachers just grazed over it and didn't really address it. With all that being said, there's been a ton of changes throughout these past years, and they've taken a toll on everybody, not just students. Everyone should feel comfortable enough to get the help that they need and shouldn't have to feel embarrassed about it. I thank you for listening to our video today and hope that you take something out of it. All of the students that you've listened to today are part of an amazing program on the Junior Board of the Easterseals of Michigan.